outset, I would like to thank Dr. Meena for having me in this course. I'll be talking on difficulties in diagnosis and management of glaucoma in myopic eyes. The association between myopia and glaucoma has long been recognized, and when these conditions coexist, there is often a diagnostic challenge to the clinician. So the evaluation of glaucoma in myopia requires a multimodal approach. The myopic discs are more to glaucoma, and this is because stretching and thinning of lamina fibrosa leads to decreased distance between the retrobulbar CSF space and the IOP compartment, resulting in steeper pressure gradient across the lamina fibrosa, causing glaucomatous optic neuropathy. So why it is challenging to diagnose glaucoma in myopia? As we know, stretching of the lamina fibrosa flattens the optic curve and thus lesser spatial and color contrast between the cup and the neuroretinal rim. Also, uneven expansion of the posterior globe wall leading to irregularities in the parapapillary zone. The anatomical variation seen in the optic nerve head like disc tilt, macro disc and ovalization, poor retinal nerve fiber layer reflectance, and also retinal pathology may give rise to visual phenotypes that can mimic glaucoma. So as of now, there's no gold standard for diagnosing glaucoma in highly myopic eyes. The thinning of sclera and cornea also affect IOP measurements. As we know, it can lead to false IOP readings, thus making an accurate diagnosis challenging. And also, as you can see here in this picture, the progressive myopia with progressive tilting of the disc and increase in the papillary atrophy leads to difficulty in detecting progression because of glaucoma in these eyes, both on structure as well as functional assessment, because the glaucoma is also progressing along with the myopia. So these are the common morphological diversities which are seen, like tilting and cyclotorsion, large or small discs, shallow or large cups, myopic conus, parapapillary atrophy. So myopic discs are generally bigger with larger cups and shallower cups, and they may mimic glaucomatous discs. Also, NRR may not be interpreted correctly because of the shallow cupping and tilt of the disc. So in myopic eyes, the prevalence of tilted disc is very high, almost 40 to 66% compared to 12.4% in the normal discs. And clinically, they appear as an exaggerated or oval or D-shaped optic nerve head with one hemisphere of the disc more elevated than the contralateral. And this is the torted disc, and tort means rotation around about the sagittal axis. And if it is more than 15 degrees, then it is called torted. And in myopic patients, you can see even 180-degree torsion. Parapapillary atrophy, we already know alpha zone and beta zone. Beta zone is also common in case of myopia. Now with the advent of spectral OCT, now we are able to identify even gamma and delta zone in our OCT, and sometimes even clinically we can see these zones. So gamma zone basically is a zone between optic nerve head margin and Brooks membrane termination. So only scleral flange is visible here, and there's no choroid, Brooks membrane or deep retinal layers, and delta zone is a part of gamma zone with no blood vessels. So there are a variety of morphological changes. As you see, this is a normal disc, this is glaucomatous disc with beta atrophy, beta zone, and this is the myopic disc with the delta zone and gamma zone. So one needs to identify. Also, myopic eyes can have field defects like glaucoma, and this has been shown in this Brian Holden Vision Institute high myopic registry. So the myopic visual fields can mimic the glaucomatous visual fields. However, defects due to myopia affect central fixation if macula is involved, or generally if macula is not involved, then there is enlargement of the blind spot, which is related to the enlargement of the parapapillary zone. And Glaucomatous defects, as we know, initially occur in Jerum's area or as nasal steps. Progressive visual field loss despite stable macula may indicate glaucomatous progression. Since it can involve papillomacular bundles, so it is better to do a 10-2 or the newer tests like 24-C. So as you can see, this is a patient with myopia, and you can see here the defects are not there on the nasal area, but they are there in the temporal area, and like enlargement of blind spot. And similarly in this patient also, mostly the defects are there, suggestive of parapapillary atrophy. Now coming to OCT, which is widely used in clinical practice. As we know, the volume scans of most of the OCTs have a depth focus of only 2 millimeter. And because of the enlargement of the posterior part of the eye in highly myopic eye, sometimes these eyes have very high curvatures, and that exceed the limit of OCT acquisition of images, and this leads to segmentation errors. So there is difficulty in acquisition of images in high myopia, and you can see here that there's no normative database available for myopic population. Hence, thinner RNFL in these patients would lead to red disease and false positive errors. And also because of the gamma zone, Bruch's membrane MRW complex will not be accurate parameter to diagnose NRR thickness. So why there is segmentation error? Because RNFL analysis here showed a significant RNFL loss in nasal areas. You can see here, and this is caused because of the temporal shift of the blood vessels, causing temporal displacement of RNFL bundles. So here you can see temporal displacement of RNFL bundles leading to defect in the nasal side. And this is because of the shift of the vessels. And so you will see these typical nasal defects in myopia. And if the macula is normal, then GC-IPL thickness may be a useful indicator. So you need to check for the segmentation error in your scan in myopic eyes. And again, this is another example of temporally shifted RNFL bundles leading to defects. And tilt can also lead to, it can alter the RNFL orientation and thus producing errors on OCT. Coming to OCT angio, which is a new technology, although we are not very familiar with OCT angio right now, but newer studies are suggesting that retinal vessel density may be a useful evaluation, useful in evaluation of glaucomatous visual field damage in high myopic eyes. You can see here, this is a tilted and torted disc with extensive parapapillary atrophy, and there are segmentation errors in OCT, but OCT angio can delineate changes in the vascular density, which correlate well with the superior arcuate defect on the visual field. So it does show some promise in the studies, but we do not have any personal experience. Just coming to few cases, this patient who was high myope, a young patient, axial length of 26 and 27, IOP was normal. Both eyes had torted disc with some tilt, and OCT shows segmentation errors due to high axial length. However, the fields were more or less normal. So one has to rely on visual field when the OCT shows segmentation error, which is a very common thing. And this 22-year male, again, having 6/6 vision the right eye and 6/16 the left eye, having normal pressures, and was diagnosed to have glaucoma with advanced cupping in the right eye, in both the eyes. And you see here extensive parapapillary atrophy and shallow cups. And here it is involving macula also. And you are not able to delineate the optic cup and NRR properly. OCT in any case will not be reliable in such cases. And visual field, you can see here is showing defects on the temporal side as well as some defect in the right eye on the nasal side, which may be suggestive of the NRR thinning. In the left eye, it is correlating with the parapapillary atrophy. And over a period of time, there was some progression in the visual field in the right eye. So it can suggest progression of glaucoma. In another case, myopic case, minus 5.5 and minus 8, the pressures were high and horizontally tilted with inferior temporal defects and superior arcuate scotoma, and OCT showing segmentation error cannot be relied upon. So there are a lot of difficulties in diagnosis glaucoma in myopia. Thinner corneas, as I said, will lead to low AT readings. So CCT has to be checked, and IOP may show larger diurnal fluctuation. And it's important to elicit the history of refractive surgeries and try to assess the NRR accurately. And it's important to correlate all the findings, including clinical examination, history, visual field evaluation, and OCT, because one parameter may not be conclusive. And do not rely on color coding of OCT. Compare the OCT data to the patient's own baseline. So if you have done an OCT, then try to compare on the same patient with the patient's own baseline and look for even minutest change for progression. And if myopia, if maculopathy is not present, then GC-IPL thickness will be more conclusive. And early management is important. Surgery in these patients may be difficult and may lead to hypotony, especially if you have used mitomycin C. So use of releasable suture will be required in such cases. So surgical management, I think one needs to be very, very cautious, and judicious use of mitomycin C is what is required. So there are no hard and fast rules for diagnosis of these patients. Treat each patient differently, taking into account all the parameters, and it is always really reasonable to err on the side of caution, especially in these myopic eyes. Thank you very much.